Hi everybody and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. It's the Midsummer Derby. The Grade 1 Travers Stakes is the feature on a graded stakes-laden card at Saratoga on Saturday. DRF handicappers Mike Beer, Matt Bernier, and I have you covered with analysis of the Travers, the Grade 1 Sword Dancer on the turf, and the Grade 1 Personal Ensign featuring a mouth-watering matchup between two top fillies, Elate and Abel Tasman. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment focuses on long shots in the Travers. JK's Play of the Day, the $1 million guaranteed Pick 4 pool at Saratoga. David Aragona's Timeform U.S. Spotlight focuses on the main event, the Travers as well. Plus best bets, horses to watch, tournament talk, lots more. Let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Horse Watch segment. Matt Bernier, you've got the game winner at Del Mar.
I like that. The name game winner. It seems like Baffert, all he does. I mean, why is this a surprise? The 2-year-olds, they all can run. This one, I like the way that he won. Let's take a look at the replay of that. Now, from a figure standpoint, not nearly as gaudy as some of his other 2-year-old winners that he's had recently. You're going to see in those Gary and Mary West Silks on the outside, he's taken this thing over already, and he's going to go on and he's going to win by almost 6 lengths. The figure only came back a 77, but when you hear Bob Baffert talk about this horse, he goes, we were surprised by how much speed he showed. We just assumed he wanted to go all day, and the fact that he was up close to the legitimate pace, I think was a positive, and just goes to show the talent there that this horse has. They're already making it clear. They're stretching him out in distance. He's going to be nominated to everything, and it sounds like there's a scenario where it's either the American Pharoah at Santa Anita on the 29th of September or the Iroquois at Churchill Downs on September the 15th. Why is the Iroquois of significance this year? In my opinion anyway, we've got the Breeders' Cup at Churchill Downs. So I wonder if that race becomes a little bit more important this year as opposed to other years.
Matt's got a Baffert 2-year-old. Mike, who else? A Chad 2-year-old. Take a look at this thing.
Yeah, Chad Brown has so many good horses that his owners had to go to Europe for the yearling sales to find more horses for him. This is one that they brought back this year, 2-year-old filly, newspaper of record. The word was out before this race that Chad was having trouble finding 2-year-old fillies to work with this thing, and she went out there on the track, and I think she proved that in her career debut here. She just destroyed this field with a huge run through the stretch. She'll win by almost 7 lengths, 78 Beyer speed figure. Let's look for her in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf.
That was a super impressive run, especially in the upper stretch when her legs were moving like the Tasmanian devil. That was a scary good debut from newspaper of record. Allow me to vent for my horse watch this week, because earlier in the week at the Harry Brubaker Stakes, I took a shot with Isotherm, a horse probably best known for being a graded stakes winner on the turf for George Weaver. Phil D'Amato got his hands on him. Really couldn't do much with Isotherm, a horse that always trained well on the dirt. So we took a shot on the dirt in the Brubaker, and we break from the gate in a 4-horse field. He is the number 6, and as you see, Isotherm doesn't break very well, but that's all well and good because you're going to see the 3 inside horses that are going to decide to hook up early. So I would assume Giovanni Franco right now is going to just tuck in right behind the horse to beat, the number 1 Dabster, the heavy favorite, and sit a nice ground-saving trip and let these 1, 2, and 3 horses just battle themselves into the ground. But no! Isotherm decides in a 4-horse field he's going to be 4 wide throughout. We pick it up later on the turn and into the backstretch. Isotherm has been 4 wide throughout. Now he's 3 wide, and it looks like he's still traveling well with a 3-5 favorite Dabster saving ground every step of the way. Isotherm's going to turn into the stretch with a slight advantage, but this is where the ground loss starts to hurt him. He pays the price. Dabster might be a better horse to begin with, but I do like the fact that Isotherm really fights it out for second over a sharp horse. I believe that's Soy Fed in second in between horses. He easily could have run third, but Isotherm is still trying in the stretch despite the ground loss. He runs a good second to Dabster here, and now the question is, where do you go from here? He's always been capable on turf. He showed he can run on dirt. I just don't know where he fits from a class perspective, but I am putting him in my DRF horse watch. That's Isotherm off of an extremely baffling effort in the Harry F. Brubaker Stakes. Time for some handicapping. The Travers is the DRF Bet Saturday race of the day. Let's throw up the field for Saturday's DRF Bets Race of the Day, the Grade 1 $1.25 million Travers Stakes for 3-year-olds going 1.25 miles. You can get expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races at Saratoga and many of the graded stakes races all weekend long, plus lots more at video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Mike Todd Pletcher has Vino Rosso in this race, and Vino Rosso in a sneaky good race in the Belmont.
Yeah, I picked Vino Rosso in this race. I don't know if I love him in here. I was just sort of looking for an alternative to the likely favorite, Good Magic, who I think is the horse to beat in here, but maybe the 1.25 miles brings things a little bit closer together in this race, and I'm hoping that's the case with Vino Rosso. We're going to show his last race. This is the Jim Dandy. This isn't the race to like Vino Rosso off of. He didn't show any early interest in this race. He was far back, and you can see right here he's still far back in this race. He will put in a little bit of a late run here and make it close at the end, but he was never winning this race. This isn't the race to like him off. I think if you like him off his Wood Memorial, where he caught a fast pace and came with a big run through the stretch. And you like him off of his Belmont Stakes, where I felt like he was probably second best to justify that day after taking a run at that horse and then just getting outfinished at the end of the race. Those are the two races to like him off of. If he can get back to one of those performances and catch a little pace in front of him here, maybe he can pull off a little bit of upset. He's 10-1 on the morning line. I think that's a fair price on him.
Matt, Catholic Boy's made his name recently on the turf, but the old turf to dirt moves worked well for him in the past.
Yeah, and really, that's kind of the crux for me with this play here with Catholic Boy. We're going to take a look at his most recent win. He's a Grade 1 winner on the turf. This is in the Belmont Derby. He's down on the inside. He battles back against Analyze It. This tape really, though, that's not why I like this horse. I'm still not totally convinced, and I don't know that Jonathan Thomas is even convinced. Is this horse better on turf or dirt? Because when you go through and you look, he was so awesome in the Remsen last year. The Sam F. Davis, you can look at that as nothing more than a means to an end, to prep to get ready for the Florida Derby, and they thought they had a Kentucky Derby horse. And unfortunately, he bled badly in the Florida Derby. Then he's off for some time, comes back, and he runs 2 bang-up races on the turf. I don't think you've got to see if he's actually better on one surface than the other. And you know what? At 8-1, he has a little bit of tactical speed. Far outside, you get Javier, who's won more Travers than anyone. I'll take a shot.
I like the fact that you guys are going for prices in here, but I think Good Magic's Way the horse to beat, and I think he's going to get a similar trip as in the Haskell last time out. Let's go back to the Haskell. He sat second off a long shot through some solid fractions, took over the lead in the stretch, and he's under a drive to finish this thing off over Bravazzo, but he's never in danger of losing. It was a comfortable first start back since the Preakness, and I think he's going to be sitting another good trip, this time behind Trigger Warning in the early stages of the Travers. I think there's a very good chance that Good Magic turns into the stretch of the Travers with the lead, and we'll see if his class and determination can get him the 1.25 miles. He's the horse to beat and the deserving favorite in the Travers. He's the deserving favorite. Nicole Russo takes a look at some intriguing long shots in the Travers in her pedigree pick segment, and Peter Thomas Fornatel's got all the latest news and notes in the tournament world in his Tournament Talk segment. Let's go to them right now.
Hey guys, Nicole Russo coming to you for Out of the Gate, and this week we'll take a look at the Travers Stakes. Here's the field for the Midsummer Derby, that historic fixture for 3-year-olds at Saratoga. Plenty of the names in this field and their pedigrees will be familiar to you as we analyze them and their potential to get the 1.25 miles at length throughout the spring. Of course, Good Magic and Mendelssohn, both Kentucky Derby starters. Catholic Boy, briefly considered a Derby candidate before going back to turf, where he's a Grade 1 winner at 1.25 miles. Even the filly Wonder Gadot is familiar to you if you watched our Kentucky Oaks countdown. Today we're going to take a look at kind of the newcomers to the group who have emerged in this second season for the 3-year-olds and their ability to get the distance. Start by talking a little bit about the one who has already won at the distance, Meistermind, who broke his maiden going 1.25 miles at Churchill Downs before finishing 5th at Saratoga in a pretty salty allowance against older horses that included some stakes performers. The route ability wasn't a fluke for Meistermind. The colt is by Derby runner-up Bodemeister, who of course had Derby winner Always Dreaming in his first crop. He's a half-brother to Kentucky Derby winner Mind That Bird and to Dullahan, both Grade 1 winners at 1.25 miles. Now, Trigger Warning and King Zachary both exit the Indiana Derby. You see Trigger Warning finishing a close second here with King Zachary further back. Now, Trigger Warning's by Candy Ride, who of course has gotten us long-winded Grade 1 winners like Gun Runner, Shared Belief. But on the female side, his grade 2 place dam, a full sister to grade 1 winning juvenile JP's Gusto, and also closely related to Canadian champion sprinter Miss Mischief. Some route ability further back, but I do kind of question how far Trigger Warning wants to go and if he'll tap out at these middle distances. Now, King Zachary is by Curlin, of course, also the sire of Good Magic, as well as Tenfold and Vino Rosso in this Travers field. No surprise that he's so well represented, as he's a powerful source of stamina. King Zachary was 4th in the Indiana Derby, but is a graded winner going 1 mile and a 16th, and I think he has the potential to continue stretching out. Thanks for tuning in to Out of the Gate for complete coverage of the Travers Stakes and also Saturday's supporting Grade 1 events from Saratoga.
Peter Thomas Fornatale back with you on Out of the Gate. We're going to get to some tournament talk in a minute, but I had a little tangent I wanted to share first and foremost. Folks, I'm sure are aware by now of the race a couple of weeks ago at Saratoga that was run at the wrong distance. I've done a little bit of research, searching for historical precedent, talking to horse players about possible solutions for this matter. And I have one that I just want to give a little bit of oxygen to, put a bug in the ear of some of the folks out there listening, see if you don't agree with me that this might be a great way to handle it. Years ago at River Downs, there was a race run where it turned out that the wrong horse was in the race, not the one listed in the racing form. And horse player Mike Maloney had a great solution. He wrote to the Ohio Racing Commission and suggested that the money in takeout that was made on that race by River Downs be calculated and put aside and used to seed a pool in a future race. So essentially, players would have the opportunity to compete once again for that money that was incorrectly taken out. This to me sounds like a great way to handle the money that was made in the race run at the wrong distance the other week. Calculate what it was, maybe use it to seed a pick 5 pool on closing day of the meet. Or if the wheels don't turn quickly enough to make that happen, do it at some point in the future. Has a bunch of benefits here. Seems to me like the right thing to do, not take money on a race that was run at the wrong distance. And there's a marketing benefit as well. We know from carryovers how much money players bring when there's that money added. This would be that opportunity. Good publicity for our friends at NYRA. I hope they consider it. I hope it ends up happening. I'd be tickled. I think it'd be a great solution for all involved for that race run at the wrong distance. Okay, back to your regularly scheduled programming. Let's do some tournament talk. Lots of stuff going on in conjunction with the Travers. So much of this show about the Travers this week. And you'll have an opportunity to play those races on DRF tournaments in a variety of events. The 2 big ones on Saturday. We've got a qualifier for Keeneland's Fall Contest happening on October 14th. There's also a qualifier for the World Championship of Handicapping. I know players eagerly anticipating the upcoming Daily Racing Form announcement of when the WCH is going to be. I'm in that camp too. Can't wait to hear what's going to be happening with it. Should have that info soon. But if you want a chance to win your $5,000 entry to the finals, where there is no takeout in those finals, you can do that on Saturday. Also, an opportunity to win into a Gulfstream Live Bank contest happening on September 1st. So next weekend, rather than put up $1,500 then, hey, why not put up $180 this weekend on Sunday on DRF tournaments and win your way in? And there's also another opportunity for a new piece of inventory on DRF tournaments, the Orleans Fall Classic. You can win into that on Sunday as well. $120 is the buy-in, and you'll have an opportunity to win your $1,000 prize package, including your $500 berth to the Orleans Fall Classic and $500 in travel to get you out to Vegas, where that one takes place. That one's a little different. So many of the tournaments we've been running lately or qualifying for lately, live bank events, the Fall Classic, a 3-day mythical money event. That's going to suit certain players better than others, and it's something to check out. I'll be writing all about that, all about the differences, all about everything going on in the contest world on my articles in Daily Racing Form, also on drf.com. And for more tournament information and a full list of all the games available, check out tournaments.drf.com. That is all I have for this week. For more on my specific thoughts about the Travers, make sure to check out this week's DRF Players Podcast. Special guest this week including Sean Tugel, director of Bloodstock for Windstar, and the Piper, Chris Pipito, jockey agent, horse player, Bon Vivant. You'll enjoy that, and we'll hear a word, of course, from that Kinchin guy as well. That's all I have for this week. Stay tuned for more Out of the Gate.
Are you a horse player looking to raise your game? For over 120 years, expert handicappers have relied on Daily Racing Form as their must-have source for news and data, featuring exclusive buyer speed figures, Timeform US pace figures, and integrated replays. DRF Formulator is the most powerful handicapping tool on the market today. Use what the pros use. Go to drf.com/formulator and enter code DRFTV to get your first card free. drf.com. Raise your game.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 1 Sword Dancer at Saratoga on Saturday, carded as race number 10. We're going a mile and a half on the inner turf. $1 million is the purse. It is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup turf. You can get expanded stakes previews of all the graded races at Saratoga this weekend and lots more at video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. It's a big field. It should be a fun betting race. Matt, you like a horse that's looking for a little bit more firm on his turf.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful that we're going to get that. It sounds like the weather's supposed to hold off. The most recent start for Highland Sky, he faced basically this entire field for the most part in the Bowling Green. I don't want to hold that against him, though, because that was over soft going, and I'm not convinced that's actually what he wants. I think he wants ground similar to what he had 2 starts back. We're going to take a look at this race from Belmont Park. This was firm going at 1 3/8. I don't think the 1.5 miles is any sort of an issue. You're going to see he's in those white blinkers splitting horses right now. He was gelded in early 2018, late 2017, somewhere in there. Early on in his career, this horse was supposed to be something. He had kept very good company, and he just never seemed to develop. I wonder if the gelding process has woken him up a little bit. He is not the likeliest winner by a long shot, but he's going to be a square price, and I think he's got a puncher's chance.
Mike, you're looking for a horse that's looking for a little bit more firm on his turf.
Yes. Same situation with number 4, High Happy. I mean, we'll just see what happens. This horse obviously did not fire at all in that Bowling Green Matt was talking about. He was the favorite that day. He never looked like he was traveling that well in that race, and he was nowhere at the finish. It was a disappointing performance. I'm hoping it was the soft ground that really affected him. Now, let's go 2 starts back to the Grade 1 Manhattan. Several of these horses exiting this race. There's Spring Quality, who will eventually win it from last to first. There's Sadler's Joy closing from the back. He will make the lead and get nailed late. High Happy was up there, part of a pressure-packed pace the entire way in this race. He fell in behind through the turn, but he's coming on again through the stretch. He's just going to miss in this race. I think the farther the better for this horse. I think the 1.5 miles is a really good distance for him. And if it's just a matter of him needing firm ground and finally getting back on that on Saturday, I think there's a real chance this horse rebounds.
He's got great tactical speed as well. He might be sitting 2nd, 3rd, or 4th in the early portion of this race, and that makes him very dangerous. Boy, I had a tough time in this race, and sometimes you just make a pick where you don't have a lot of confidence, you know the horse is going to be a giant price, and you're taking a shot. And that's what I'm doing with the number 8, Seahenge. And it's possible that Seahenge is just a stable pet for Aidan O'Brien, sort of a traveling companion for his more fancied stablemate Mendelssohn, who's running in the Travers. Or, and this is the way I'm looking at it, I'm hoping that Aidan O'Brien actually thinks this horse has a little bit of talent, which is why he keeps throwing him in these tough spots. This is a 3-year-old taking on older horses, so he gets a little bit of weight. He's been competing on dirt recently, which I don't really think is his surface. He's a big, scopy kind of horse. To me, looks like a horse that wants to run all day long, and some of his races at 2 I thought were pretty good on the turf, most notably a 3rd to the talented U.S. Navy flag sprinting. He's pretty unexposed on the turf going long. He has a giant chance in here and has to run the race of his career, but I have to admit, I really didn't love the Bowling Green run over a tough, boggy, sticky turf course. I didn't really love the United Nations. Maybe Seahenge for Aidan O'Brien. You rarely get him at a giant price, but this is a spread race for me in any kind of multiple race wagers. We'll move from turf to dirt. The personal ensign is next. Here's the field for the Grade 1 Personal Ensign Stakes at Saratoga on Saturday. Fillies and mares running for $700,000 were carded as race number 7. We have a field of 6, and you can get expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races this weekend, including the Personal Ensign, at video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Matt, Elate returned off a long layoff for the great Bill Mott last time out at Delaware and did it at an extremely demanding distance and won easily.
Yeah, I don't think we can sort of overstate how difficult that is. She was coming off of a long layoff, and she had to go 10 furlongs in the Delaware handicap. We can take a look at that stretch run right now, and you're also going to see Furiously Kissed in this race as well. She's no match for Elate at the end of the day, but really, who is? I think this race really boils down to, what do you make of the performance from Elate, and do you think she's going to take a step forward? Because if you just look at it strictly from a figure standpoint, which I understand that's not the name of the game, it's not figure, it's handicapping. From a figure standpoint, she needs to improve if she's going to run with the likes of Abel Tasman. I have a funny feeling we're going to get a very good version of Elate on Saturday afternoon.
Mike, Abel Tasman and Elate threw it down last year at Saratoga in the Coaching Club American Oaks. They're going to face off again. And Abel Tasman's most recent performance in the Ogden Phipps indicates she's back in form.
Yeah, Matt, maybe back and better than ever as a 4-year-old. You're right, that CCA Oaks last year, though, that was a real battle between these two. If you remember, that was the race where Mike Smith made that wicked early move with Abel Tasman to go take the race over, and then she just denied Elate at the end of the day. If Elate comes forward in this race, we have a horse race on our hands, but she has to come forward based on this performance from Abel Tasman. Now, this is Abel Tasman's second start off the layoff, and she wasn't exactly sharp first time back, but boy, she took it to another level here. She destroys this field under a hand ride in the stretch, 100 Beyer speed figures, the fastest race she's ever run. I don't know, guys. As far as I can tell, she's back and better than ever as a 4-year-old. We have a very good horse race on our hands on Saturday.
It's all about whether she can relax in the early stages. Mike Smith must have had her in the 5-6 path on the backstretch, trying to keep her relaxed because, as you know, she can pull hard in the early stages of her races, and she destroyed that field. We'll see what we get breaking from the inside in the Personal Ensign. Matt, Chad Brown understated at times. He was really talking up Wildcat before this one's North American debut.
He certainly was. He talked about her as if she was going to be the next big thing for him in his barn, and she debuted in the local prep for this race. It's the Chuvy. We're going to take a look at that run right now. Her and Farrell are both in this spot, and Farrell's the one that's out there dictating the terms on the front end. And you're going to see Wildcat and the Green Silks between runners right now. I understand anyone that looks at this and says it was a little bit underwhelming from Wildcat, only earned an 89 Beyer against inferior company. Now you got to deal with Abel Tasman and Elate, but I kind of wanted to be a little bit more on the charitable side and say, you know what, her first start since early December of last year, first start in the United States, first start for a new trainer, and going mile and an eighth off the bench, that's not an easy feat. I think she's going to move forward. The question is, can she move forward enough to run with the likes of Abel Tasman and Elate? The only good news is she's going to be a much nicer price to at least take a shot with against them.
That's absolutely correct. I respect Elate. I respect Wildcat. I agree with Mike on this one, however, with Abel Tasman. She beat Elate last year in the Coaching Club American Oaks. And it's really all about what kind of trip she's going to get. I think the pace is going to be solid. If Smith can get her off the rail and able to relax, I think we'll see her make a big sweeping move on the turn. I'm hoping, as a fan, that Abel Tasman is back. I really like the campaign she put together as a 3-year-old for Bob Baffert, and I think she gets it done in the Personal Ensign. JK's play of the day, the $1 million guaranteed pool in the Pick 4 at Saratoga on Saturday. And David Aragona from Timeform US discusses the Travers. Let's go to those segments.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day. Doesn't get much better than this. It's Travers weekend, Midsummer Derby, one of my favorite days in racing up at Saratoga. We're going to give you a Pick 4 starting in race 8. Okay, the Grade 1 Ballerina, 7 furlongs on the dirt for the older fillies and mares. I'm going to use 3 horses in here. One of them I think is we've talked about a lot on this show. Actually, 2 of them, Ivy Bell and Finley's Lucky Charm. I'm trying to get Ivy Bell to the winner's circle. She's run a lot of good races this year. She ran well at Belmont. She ran well at Churchill. I think this might be the time that she actually shows up. She's at Todd Pletcher's backyard, although it hasn't been his backyard this year. She shows up at Saratoga for Todd. I think that this horse might actually run well here and should provide a little bit of value, is probably what's going to be the 3rd choice. The other horse I'm going to use is the 5, Finley's Lucky Charm. Tactical, fast filly. She did most of her damage down at Churchill Downs throughout her career, although last time she came up here and ran in the honorable miss at Saratoga on this course and ran really well with a really fast figure, 123 Timeform US, and a very nice Beyer to go with that. I'm also going to use the shipper, the 7, Marley's Freedom. We've talked about it on the podcast over and over. When Chad, Mott, in motion send one out west to run on the turf, you got to open up your eyes. When Baffert sends one out east and runs them on the dirt, you got to open your eyes. And I think Marley's Freedom's one of those. It'll be third time with Baffert. She was previously with Bob Hess. She ran well with Baffert the 2 times. She's undefeated in his barn. He wouldn't put her on the plane if she didn't mean business. Those are the 3 horses I'm going to use here. Noticeably, I'm fading Lewis Bay. I just don't really think she's that good, especially with some of the quality that lines up in here. On to race 7. The grade 1 Forgo. I'm going to single here. You got to try to find a single in these multi-race bets. And one of my favorite horses of this entire year, and I guess maybe even last year if you want to count December 26th and the race in the Malibu, and that's the 8 City of Light. Mike McCarthy is one of the most underappreciated trainers in the country. I think that City of Light's drawn perfectly outside. Yeah, there's some good horses in here, some really quality types. Limousine Liberal, Whitmore, CZ Rocket. But City of Light's going to get a perfect trip sitting right outside, gets the meet's leading rider in Irad Ortiz. I'm sure Drayden wants to stick out west and keep winning all the races out there. But I think that City of Light's going to be extremely tough going 7. He was dangerous in the Malibu. He's won a couple of grade 1s already going 7. He tried the 1.25 miles, cutting back. I think this horse is going to be extremely dangerous. Tactical speed to go with it. I'm going to single City of Light. On to the third leg, the Sword Dancer. It's a tough spot. This is one of those races where I think the previous Jonathan Kinchin would have singled Sadler's Joy, but I've learned the hard way that this horse is not singleable. I made that up, because he's just the way that he runs his race. He's coming from off the pace, and he always seems to find trouble or run into pace situations. I am going to use him. But I'm also going to use the 6 Bigger Picture, who was closing into a slow pace last time in the Bowling Green and finishing well on soft ground, and Channel Maker, who was also closing into that same ground and that same pace. I'm going to use the 6, the 7, and the 10. I'm going to fade all the other ones. I'm going to leave Fantastic off. I think Glorious Empire last time was the time, and Spring Quality got the jump at on Sadler's Joy at Belmont. I don't really want that horse in this spot, and I've been trying to beat High Appy all year, and I'm going to try to beat that horse again. On to the Travers. This is a spreading event for me. I'm going to use the 3 Gronkowski off of the big run at Belmont. Workout reports suggest that this horse is doing really well. I'm going to use the 7 King Zachary, another one that's been working well. Dale Romans gets these horses to try to kind of come along throughout the summer. Ask American Pharaoh and Keen Ice. I'm going to use Mendelssohn. I'm going to give him another shot. I'm going to respect Aiden O'Brien, the horseman that he is, that he put this horse on the plane for a reason. I'm going to give him one more shot, going 1.25 miles on fast ground. The 1-turn mile last time might have been a little too much for him. Let's see what he'll do going 1.25 miles. Good Magic, obviously, the Haskell winner. Chad Brown, talented animal. You can't leave him off. And Catholic Boy, the gritty horse of the bunch. He'll do it on turf. He'll do it on dirt. I just think he's a really game racehorse. And if they get into a dogfight in the stretch, I wouldn't want to be looking in the eyes of Catholic Boy. I think Catholic Boy is tough in this spot. I'm going to use the 3, the 7, the 8, the 9, and the 11. Good luck. We'll see you next week.
Hi everyone, this is David Aragona with this week's Timeform US Spotlight. It's a great card on Saturday at Saratoga. Obviously, it's featuring the Grade 1 Travers, which goes as race 11, but there are 6 Grade 1s in total, including the Grade 2 Boston Spa, which goes as the race right after the Travers. Really tough sequences, and the Travers is actually one of the most difficult races to handicap because without Justify in the race, it's a pretty wide open Travers. We have 10 horses taking on the favorite Good Magic. We'll take a look at the field in the Timeform US preview screen, and full field of runners. Good Magic drew post 11. We're going to get some speed from the horse drawn on the rail, Trigger Warning. He's the one that's likely to head out towards the front. We'll take a look at the Timeform US pace projector, and it is predicting a fast pace in this race. You've got a few horses with speed, not a ton of real need the lead types other than Trigger Warning, but a bunch of horses that want to get that position up close to the pace, either stalking or sitting just in behind the leaders. I think we'll see an honest pace, and we'll see what that does to the favorite Good Magic. He's the deserving favorite in this race. I think he earned his reputation as the inherited leader of the 3-year-old division after Justify retired, because he's the horse that really took a shot at Justify in the Triple Crown race. Is really the only one that lodged a serious challenge. In the Derby, he took that run at him at the top of the stretch and was turned away. And in the Preakness, they kind of turned it into a 2-horse race, a race-long duel. And I know he finished 4th that day, but Good Magic really did run the second best race behind Justify. As Bravazzo and Tenfold just kind of edged past him at the wire. He returned since the Triple Crown in the Haskell last time, and Look, it wasn't the toughest field. He only had to really beat Bravazzo, and aside from that, none of the other horses out of the Haskell are returning in this Travers. But Good Magic did it the right way. In my opinion, it was the first time that I really saw him get into the bridle and carry Jose Ortiz into the lead since last fall's Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He's had to ride him a bit harder in some of his other races this year, and I think that signals that Good Magic is really heading into the Travers in top form. It's just the 10 furlongs, is that a bit too far for him? I'm not really sure about that, especially if the pace is indeed fast. I think that could work against a horse like Good Magic, who does want to be up close to that pace. He's the horse to beat. I'm not against him. I just think at a very short price, this is a spot where you can take a shot against him. I'm actually very interested in his stablemate Gronkowski, who figures to be the second choice in this race. I know it's always a little dangerous to base your opinion on a horse off one performance, but I was really impressed with his effort in the Belmont Stakes last time. Yes, he got a fast pace to close into. You see the red color-coded pace figures for the half and 6 furlong fraction of the Belmont Stakes, but he really put in a sustained, impressive run around the far turn of that race after kind of getting outrun in the early portion of the race. And he briefly looked like he was going to take a shot at Justify in the stretch. Ultimately, he just couldn't carry that momentum forward after really closing for a good half mile prior to that. He's bred to run all day. He obviously showed he can handle distance in the Belmont last time. I know he's a son of Lonhro, and that kind of turned some people off, but there's a ton of dirt stamina breeding on the dam side of this pedigree, and I love the way he's trained out of that race. Chad Brown's matched him against some tough horses in the morning, like his older horses, Kurlov and Timeline, and I would expect him to not drop so far out of the off the pace this time. I know the pace projector doesn't even have him on the screen because he's such a deep closer off that Belmont performance, but I think he's going to be up a bit closer this time, and I like the rider switch to Joel Rosario. I think he really fits a horse like this, so I'm taking Gronkowski in this race. If he's around 4-1, which I have him at the morning line, I think he's the right bet. Just looking through some other horses in this field, Wonder Godot is going to attract some attention as the filly in this race. I don't think she's quite fast enough. You've got the horses out of the Jim Dandy. I just don't love that race in general. It was a bit slower. I think the one other interesting horse that you want to use is Catholic Boy. I'm always a little skeptical of horses that improve on another surface, but it is possible this horse is just really in good form right now. And you go back to his dirt races from earlier in the year, and I know that they kind of left a little disappointed because he had run so well in the Remsen last year. But the Sam Davis, what chance did he really have coming off the layoff, stalking 3 wide the entire way? I thought he had a right to get a bit tired in that race. And then the Florida Derby, when you watch it back, he kind of got the wrong trip, losing momentum, kind of having to wait in behind some tiring horses on the far turn, and Audible just kind of got the jump on him. It's really hard to regain your momentum when you lose it over that tiring Gulfstream track. I think he might just be in really good form right now. Those races in the Pennine Ridge and the Belmont Derby, they suggest that he might have just taken a step forward, because even those races are way better than the turf races he was running as a 2-year-old. So I feel like Catholic Boy will get the distance, and he's definitely one to use. Couldn't pick him on top because he's not one I can totally trust, but he's a horse I would definitely use in exotic. So I'm taking Gronkowski in the Travers over Good Magic and Catholic Boy, but it's a really interesting race. Now let's send it back to the studio.
Time for our best bet segment here on Out of the Gate. I love this part. Dueling best bets. Matt and Mike, same race, different horse. Matt, who is it?
Well, the Grade 1 Ballerina, race number 8 at Saratoga on Saturday. I'm going to go with the 3-horse Still There. She's coming up from Maryland. She's a little bit inexperienced as far as the big stage is concerned, going out for Dane Kabisky, but her most recent start, this was in the Twixt Stakes down at Laurel. I thought she was awesome this day. She cruised up 3 wide on the far turn, and she goes on and absolutely buries this field. She's 3 for 3 on the main track. Her only loss came in a turf race at Belmont Park 2 starts back. I like that she has some positional speed, and to be frank about this field, I have questions about all of the shorter prices. Finley's Lucky Charm, sure, she can win, but I don't know that I love her, and I certainly don't love her at 7/8. And Lewis Bay, whenever Lewis Bay is one of the favorites, I feel obligated to take a shot against. I like what this filly did here, but look, I got to respect everybody else in this field, and I think Mike's got a nice long price as well.
Yeah, I think we sort of look at it the same way, Matt. I was impressed with Still There's performance last time as well and took a long look at her. To me, this was just the kind of race where, like you, I don't want the favorites in this race. They can obviously run well in here and be tough to beat in here, but it's not like they hold a huge edge on some of these horses in here. I want to take a shot with Union Strike at a big price in this race. She's a Grade 1 winner at 7 furlongs as a 2-year-old. The only other time that she has sprinted on fast dirt in her career is this race right here. This is her 3-year-old debut. Off the layoff, she comes 4 wide to the stretch, and she runs by a pretty good horse here in Selcourt. Now, the Selcourt was pretty young and inexperienced at this point, but she runs right by her and goes clear. She has not sprinted on fast dirt since then. Her most recent start, I thought, was an underrated effort on synthetic at Arlington Park. She is first-time Steve Asmussen in this race, and I'm hoping she takes a step forward at the right time.
I'll be at Saratoga as well. Race number 12 is the Boston Spa Stakes. Chad Brown trains 3. I'm hoping for the best price of the 3, and that's the number 5, Kidura, who ran very, very well at Saratoga last year. Let's go back to last year at Saratoga, where she's taking on, who else? Chad Brown and Lady Eli. Kidura makes the lead turning into the stretch. Lady Eli, we all know her accomplishments in class, is going to attack Kidura on the outside, and I really like the way Kidura battles back here. She's showing no quit whatsoever, all fight, all heart. Lady Eli is just a little bit better, and Kidura finishes a very good second behind Lady Eli. Kidura's most recent race was her first start of the year. It was a very yielding and boggy turf course at Belmont. She set the pace. You could see clods kicked up in the back there. It was a really wet turf course, and 55, trained by Chad Brown, was able to run her down in the shadow of the wire. I think Kidura sits a good trip sitting off Hawksmoor in the early portion of this race, takes over turning into the stretch, and hopefully can hold off the charge of the other 2 Chad Brown trained runners. But I do like Kidura, second off the bench for Chad Brown in the Boston Spa. That's my best bet on Saturday. We thank you so much for watching Out of the Gate this week and urge you to follow all of DRF TV's latest video offerings on Twitter. Follow at DRF Video. And for the latest news and notes from America's Turf Authority, follow Daily Racing Form at DRF Inside Post. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.